Hello, I'm Namulanta Kombo, and this is Dear Daughter from the BBC World Service. I'm collecting letters of advice for my daughter Coco and for daughters everywhere. You can find us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This season, I'm talking to parents who are stars in their fields: actors, journalists, scientists, and what advice they'd give to their daughters. My guest today is Kalki Koechlin. She's a Bollywood actress, an author, an activist, and you might recognize her as host of the BBC podcast, My Indian Life. Thank you so much for doing this, Kalki. It's really nice to meet you.
Thank you, Namulanta.
And it's a weird way to meet, but I'm really glad that you're doing this. You wrote this amazing letter to your daughter about beauty, and what you did when you heard those devastating words that any parent would hate to hear when she said, "Mum, I'm not pretty." Your daughter's 4, and I have a 4-year-old son. What is your daughter like at the moment? And I'll tell you about mine.
She is just because, I feel like she's on the cusp of puberty and she's 4.
Yeah.
She's like, leave me alone. I need some space. And she goes to her room and shuts the door. I'm like, is this meant to happen this early?
I wonder where she gets that flair for drama from.
I don't know. Yeah. She gets the drama from me for sure, but she also gets like the stubbornness from her dad.
Yeah. I love this age because I feel like we have so much to talk about.
So entertaining. I agree.
You wrote this book called The Elephant in the Womb, which is such an interesting read. I actually read it. And it's very honest, brutally honest, talking about the pregnancy and those first stages of parenthood. It triggered me a bit. It took me back to those moments like when I was pregnant and I was just like, what is going on? So many changes like in my body. But how are you feeling now, a parent of a 4-year-old?
Yeah, I'm much more like, wow. I've got this thing going now, the parenting thing. I'm like, yeah, I've gotten back on the horse with work, and I'm still like giving enough time to my daughter, and I'm like, oh, it's really great. Should we have another one?
Kalki.
It's like that conversation. But I'm 41. Do I want another one? I'm 41. Oh, we started this game a bit late.
Yeah.
So it's a strange place. But yeah, I mean, it's so much more interactive. I feel like I'm talking to a person rather than like the nurturing giving that you have to do in the first year, where you're just like a beacon of everything that's just going output and no input, whereas now I'm like getting so much input, and it's like I love it, and I miss her when I'm gone, and I want to be back as soon as I can.
I feel like you shouldn't get too comfortable, because what happens is as soon as we get comfortable as parents, like the next that phase ends and the next phase begins, and you wake up in the morning and it's like, welcome to no hugs forever. Like your child doesn't want anything to do with you, and they're done. And you had just gotten through like the last phase. So
thank you, Namulanta, for that bringer. You're the bringer of doom.
But why don't we do this? Why don't you read your letter, and then we can get straight into the chat about you and your daughter.
Sure. Dear daughter, one day after school, you told me, "Maman, I'm not pretty." You were only 4. I panicked and immediately responded with, "What do you mean? Of course you're pretty. You're as pretty as a butterfly, as bright as the sun." And you continued to say angrily, "I'm not. I'm just not." In retrospect, I wish I'd listened to you and been curious enough to ask you why you didn't feel pretty. You see, I make mistakes too. My own insecurities and need to protect you took over, and I didn't allow you the space to feel what you were feeling. Don't let others decide who you are, not even me. You have far more experience at being you than anyone else, and no one else can be a better you than you. Thankfully, I get second chances at being a better mother. And when a few weeks later you said, "I don't like myself," I stopped my impulse to tell you what you were and listened. There was some silence. And then you opened up about how you were having a hard time with some other children in school. I thought about how to ensure you know that beauty is not skin deep. The truth is, sometimes you will feel ugly. I feel ugly sometimes, even though I'm constantly told by the world around me that I'm beautiful. And so now I've made it a point to tell you how beautiful you are, not when you're feeling bad about the way you look and not when you're dressed your best, but when you're being the best versions of you. As you grow older, I know that you will not always believe that you're beautiful because we live in a social world that has distorted beauty, that has tricked us into thinking beauty is a certain size, a certain color, or a certain shape. These beauty standards will change throughout your lifetime, so do not hold too much value to what society deems beautiful currently. Remember that you are whole, and that if you start to pick apart your little nose or your hairy brows or your not quite right ears, you will start to feel ugly. But that is only because you are forgetting the whole. An elephant is a beautiful animal, but pick it apart and it's got a long, wrinkly nose, strange side glancing eyes, huge sticking out ears, and a big fat stomach. Remember that your scars, your wrinkles, your eyes, your lips, your hands, your feet, your hair, your skin are all here as witnesses to your beautiful life. They are here to grow old with you and carry you through the ups and downs. They are your friends for life.
Do you want to sign it off, Kalki?
I tell her, do you know when I'll stop loving you? Never.
Oh, thank you so much, Kalki. But I'm just thinking about that moment when your daughter said that to you and how I imagine like my stomach would have sank to hear my child say that. Do you know
Yeah.
where it came from and what did you say?
I don't know exactly where it came from. And the first time she said it, it really took me by surprise. And you know, at 4, they're so
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my goodness, how is it possible that you could think you're not pretty? But there's all these little things that happen through the day now that she's in school. And I remember one day she came back and said somebody called her a smelly rat. Yeah. So, you hear these things and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to stop this? Like bullying and
Yeah.
the way people criticize the way you smell or look. And it's even worse now. Like I don't even want to think about the social media angle that's going to come in. This she's not there yet. I'm already like, oh my God, in Australia they've made this rule that you can't have social media till 16. And I'm already like, oh, maybe we should go to
Move to
Australia.
Australia.
That's how my mother brain is working.
Yeah.
So I feel this terrible need to protect. And that was my reaction when she said she's not pretty. But I also thought, is it not, it's okay to not always feel pretty and to have a place to just talk about how you're feeling ugly or you're feeling bad about yourself. And there's this lovely kind of therapy that I'm working with a little bit called NVC, nonviolent communication, and a lot of that is also about just the silences and giving space to the other person. And I find that it really works even with your kids to just listen and say, oh, okay, which part of you do you not
Mhm.
like? Or, just make it a sort of a game and see what the issue is really. And usually it is something like something mean that was said at school. And it has actually nothing to do with the physical appearance. So it's a really challenging thing just to walk that tightrope where you want to protect, but you also want to let them be their own person.
I know. And sometimes when you do want to protect, it makes them clam up as well because then I want to run to the school and find this child and ask them why they
Yeah.
said that. But if I do that as well, my daughter won't want to tell me things.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I would have done. But you got a second chance when she said something else to you sometime later,
Hmm.
and you got the chance to use some of the tools that you've just spoken about in terms of just giving her this space to explain how she feels and why she feels that way.
Yeah.
And I really resonate with you asking why, because I'm trying to do that with my kids because a lot of the time, by asking why, I find out so
Mm.
much and not assume that I know what's going on, not assume that they're throwing a tantrum or they're just being naughty. There's actually a reason and they don't know
Mm.
how to vocalize it. So It must have been such a beautiful conversation that you two had once you asked why and gave her the space to tell you.
Yeah, it was more like I was just there to listen. And she spoke about some friends, some things that were happening in school. But I think that, yeah, this is the hardest part of parenting, to have a safe space where you can feel that feeling. Even with something like anger, that was a challenging one. I used to get triggered when she used to get angry, and like, if she got violent.
Hmm.
And we had a real, like, we really didn't know how to handle it sometimes, especially toddlers. Sometimes they bite
Yeah.
out of nowhere, or do something really, you don't expect it. And so during the lockdown, we had these pillow fights. She was only like 2, but just this, like, okay, you're feeling these big feelings
Yeah.
of anger. Okay, let's get some pillows and let's have a pillow fight.
Yeah.
And so we try to find these, like, outlets for even these big emotions, which perhaps, at least in my childhood, were sort of repressed a little, and we were told to just, like, not do certain things and
Yeah.
not behave certain ways.
Yeah. We got our son a punching bag and boxing gloves. Like he wears them all day because he has a lot to let
To
out. Yeah,
express.
but yeah, it works. It really works. Definitely both parents of 4-year-olds. What about your own journey with beauty of yourself and how you perceive yourself? Could you tell me a bit
Mm.
about what that's been like from the time you were a young girl?
Oh God, that's a long story. um, yeah. So when I was young, I think I did find myself very awkward. I was quite a tomboy, and then my teenage years, I had like those big, ugly train track, braces
Yeah.
for a long time. For 3 years, I think, with the elastic bands and everything. So it was quite intense. And I spent like those 3 years smiling, or not smiling, in
Mm-hmm.
photos, like
Mm-hmm.
being like, just the mouth closed. And so I was very conscious of that. Um, and I sort of seemed to shed. So I didn't, I sort of had this very awkward these teenage years, which also the layers that come with that, with not feeling beautiful, with my parents also divorcing, and lots of things going on at home. It's also all that coming together that makes you feel like small and insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time on my own, and I spent a lot of time writing poems and things like that. And maybe that kind of was a very introverted time. And then I went to university in London, and it was like a fresh start. I was like 18 years old. My braces were off. I, had, suddenly, like, become this swan. And I didn't know I was a swan, right? I got to university, and there was this whole world who didn't know me as a geeky
Mm-hmm.
introvert, and saw me as this, like, exotic, pretty girl. So it was quite a interesting shift in my life, and I, like, also my first time being independent, living on my own. So it was quite a flip. And I think I was very frivolous in my relationships, and the way I was very like, everything's amazing. I was, you know, I can't, I'm not fully proud of all the ways that I behaved in my relationships, but I think it was just this sort of expressing of and celebrating of my body and of my youth and my beauty and all of these things. And then, becoming a celebrity, having your face out there a lot,
Mm-hmm.
being in front of the camera, which can be like an extreme close up, there's another kind of layer of self consciousness that kicks in.
Sure.
And people also kind of, how would you say, like, catering your image and making it something,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and I felt, I mean, it was great in the beginning, but in after some time, it started becoming very, like, like I just wanted to just be without makeup, and I just wanted to be in a t-shirt and just do my own thing and not have to like be pretty all the time. And that now has the new layer that has come in is age, and the fact that I have wrinkles and that I'm still in front of the camera, so those wrinkles are very prominent.
Hmm.
Um, and there are days where I'm like, oh my God, I feel so old, not just because of the physical appearance, but because my back hurts and my knees hurt, and I can't spend a night out without like recovering the whole next
Oh, tell
day.
me
It's
about
those signs of aging that
Yeah.
are kicking in. Um, so so yeah, it's constantly changing and having to adapt to the new situation. So I'm now just starting to adapt to this. Okay, my pace is slower. It has to be slower than it used to be. I
Hmm.
have to change my diet. I have to be comfortable with the fact that, I have wrinkles. I personally don't want to sort of do anything to my face. So I've got to be comfortable with that. So just starting to come into a place of feeling okay with that. Uh, but it's so holistic. It's so much to do with what you're doing in terms of your work, what you do, how you approach life in every other aspect. It's
Yeah.
never just the way you look.
Yeah. Don't forget, we're the same age, so you have to start lifting weights as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Are you
protein as
doing that?
well, like
Have you
intake of
started?
protein. Starting, yeah, no, I haven't
Me
actually.
neither. Kalki.
I I gotta say, I'm not. I hate the gym. I find it so boring. And if I have a personal trainer, I can sort of make it. I can
Yeah.
make it happen. But on my own, I can't. And since I've been in Goa, I've really enjoyed outdoors, and I have access to surfing. I love surfing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm
Yeah, that's weight
building.
training. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm building
Yeah.
muscle through like paddling, and it's quite a lot of core work.
Yeah.
But I don't like the actual like sitting in a gym and lifting weights. Like
Yeah.
that's just like ugh.
Yeah. You talked about your career, and I'm just wondering if there were any moments that you remember that were very defining for you and how you view your own beauty and, beauty in the world.
I mean, there are so many aspects to it. With the aging thing, I mean, I remember once a producer telling me, oh, he was talking about an ex of his, and he was like, oh, and she's quite a famous actress, and he was like, oh, she went a bit too far with the Botox.
Mhm.
And he was like, all you need is a little filler for your laughter lines. And I wanted to like stab him with my fork. We were having lunch. But I kind of held myself back and I
Mm.
smiled and I said, well, I better stop smiling so much. I better stop laughing so much then. So I think my approach has been to take it with a pinch of salt and have some humor about it.
I feel like for me, I can be a mess in peace. Unlike you,
Mm.
I can go out and just not look put together. But I don't have people, fans with cameras, wanting to take pictures or paparazzi. Um, so it must be, I can't imagine how it must be much harder for you to run away from the conversation. And not maybe not run away, but just have a normal day or have a normal life without your looks being brought
Mm.
into the conversation.
I mean, yes and no. I think that, well, as women anyway, we have that pressure. And now with social media, it's even worse. We all scrutinize and we all have these filters, literal filters as well, but like this way of like being seen. So I think it's a pressure in general for women. But I do feel that there's also the opposite of that, which is that more and more women of a certain age, women like us, are going out in public, and doing careers at a late age after having kids. And people I know who remind me that yes, there's like a bottleneck period in your life when you're having your kids, you're raising your kids, you're trying to work, your parents are getting older and you're caregiving for them. There's this like really intense period. And then there are people who are in their 50s and 60s, like suddenly my kids were gone. my parents had passed away, and suddenly I had all this time, and I started a new career, or I started a new passion. So I feel really like hopeful about this, you know?
Yeah. Speaking about parents, accepting and understanding and learning from,
Yeah.
what did your parents teach you about beauty?
I would say that my mother was quite an intellectual, and we lived in the middle of a forest, in the middle of nowhere. So there wasn't that much focus on like looking pretty. I mean, we were living this kind of very jungle life. Um, and and she really gave me the power of writing and the power of working and reading and doing things for myself, which I think adds to beauty actually. Being confident, being your own person, is quite attractive. And so that's what I would say she gave me. And my father was like a real adventurer. He was hang gliding and teaching hang gliding,
Mm-hmm.
and so my days were spent like jumping off a cliff with a hang glider and fixing a puncture with him and learning these not very feminine things,
Yeah.
how we make these jobs men's and women's. And I was doing those jobs with him. He never said, "Oh, you can't do this."
Yeah.
And that has been so empowering when I have been on my own and I've had to like fix the lights or, do those things which so often we depend on a man for, which
Yeah.
is so silly. Even learning to drive, like I learned very early on, Um, yeah. Yeah. So I guess that I don't know how this is exactly related to beauty, but it adds to the wholeness of the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's that's always beautiful.
So, what do you have in terms of advice that you'd like to share with your daughter and my daughter and all the daughters regarding beauty?
You as much as you can, be curious about those around you and the people who love you,
Mm-hmm.
um, because the beauty is reflected in the way other people see you. You know, uh, and yes, of course, like self care, take care of yourself, be your own person, but also like the more you show your interest and your love for other people, the more they sort of send that back your way. So I feel like there's a mirroring work that's there.
Yeah.
It, you know, um, it might just be in the little things, like even with me and my husband, that we might do for each other, like write a little post-it note on the fridge, or uh, you know, bring a cup of mint tea while he's in the middle of something or I'm in the middle of something. Um, so I feel like focus on the curiosity and the love for others, and it's going to reflect back in you.
Thank you so much for coming onto the Dear Daughter podcast and talking to me. I'm truly grateful, all the way from Goa. And I really love, you talking about finding pockets of beauty and pockets of joy in life,
Mm.
because that's what another thing that I'm trying to do. I don't believe that happiness is all day, every day, full on, week after week. I feel like that's impossible. But in finding those pockets of joy, and one of them is just asking my kids why. I'm finding out so much about them by just asking why. Why would you say that? Why do you think that way? And
Like they often do with us.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that curiosity is amazing in
Yeah.
kids.
And that
But
there's
why,
beauty
Mama?
in
But
that.
why?
Yeah, and there's beauty in that. There's beauty in what I'm helping my kids to be, and how I'm helping them grow. So thank you so much for sharing your letter to your daughter with us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Namalanta. And I heard a few of your podcasts, and I really enjoyed a
Thank
couple
you.
of them. The one with the chef and the one with the dating one from Hong Kong.
Yeah,
They
with
really, I
Wen.
really enjoyed them. There's, you, it's really nice. I think that every mother actually has a letter in her head
Mhm.
for their daughter. So it's really nice that that's being like expressed out loud.
Yeah, yeah, from all over the world. Thank you so much, Kalki.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of Dear Daughter for the BBC World Service YouTube channel with me, Namulanta Kombo. Subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss a single episode.